Maggie to the rescue!
Hey everybody! You might recognize this adorable doll. She's a Tiny Tears doll, and she actually appeared in my doll hunt video. I found her at an estate sale when I was on vacation. Thank you, Maggie. You can have a seat. And she was in pretty bad condition, so I'm going to show you. So you can see that her skin was really stained. I did try a little bit of a magic eraser at first, but I didn't want to scratch her face. I was getting a little bit worried about it and thought maybe I would have to use benzoyl peroxide or another kind of peroxide, but I decided to just put some OxyClean in a bowl of hot water and I just dunked her in there and it worked. I cannot believe it. I don't know if this is the right thing to do. It's just what I tried on her. So if you have a doll that you think might be beyond getting stains off, it's worth a shot. So you can see her skin still has a little bit of yellowing here, but for the most part, that horrible staining has faded quite significantly. So you can see her scalp is interesting. So it was sort of sewn on. So it's a good thing her hair covers up all this. That's just thread. Isn't that interesting? So I did wash her hair really well too. And when I dunked her head, as you saw in the video, I would hold her up like this and then drain her. Of course, Tiny Tears was made to be able to deal with water. Her hair was washable and you could give her a bottle of water and then squeeze her belly and then tears would come out of her eyes. Therefore, Tiny Tears. So her body was in excellent condition. I just wiped it down, but I'm going to do a little bit more on her. I'm going to try to get this eyebrow even to this one and maybe paint that a little bit more. One thing that really bothers me is that her eyes are still a little bit pink. Do you see that? And I tried to put a little bit of peroxide on here. It really didn't make that much of a difference. So I'm actually going to try, I don't know if this is going to work, but just to put a little bit of, not bright white, a little bit of off-white, but white paint on the corners of her eyes. I don't know if that's going to work or not. We'll see. I'm going to blush her cheeks with a little bit of chalk pastel, and I'm going to repaint her mouth. So when I looked up this Tiny Tears, the one with hair, she had a very rosy cheek blush and her lips were kind of red. So I'm going to go with that. And you might recognize this. This was her original slip and her original booties. The outfit she came with just isn't my cup of tea. It's just not the right kind of fabric that I think she deserves. It's a little kind of polyester. Very cutely made, but I have a couple of dresses. You know, this one might even be a Tiny Tears dress. I'm not sure. Very much in the style of Tiny Tears. And so is this cute little dress. And then I made this little bonnet. I'll talk to you about that later. So I took her clothes off. I'll show you her body. It's so cute. Look at the little dimples on her fingers, hands, cute little toes and feet, cute belly. She's got a little stain. Cutest butt. And I think she did wet her diaper too, as well as cry. And here's the marking, the American character marking. So I want to show you a really fun feature of this doll. When I was looking her up, I read about this and I was like, oh my gosh. So let me change my camera angle. So she's called a rockabye Tiny Tears. So when the child would hold her, she could rock her to sleep. Isn't that cute? Her eyes close. Isn't that sweet? So now she's asleep. So I'll show you that her eyes, see how this eye is a little bit lazy? So one thing I've noticed, warning, I'm not hurting the doll, but I do have to bang her head a little bit. It pops back into place. So whoever adopts her, that's just a little something you can do for display purposes. See, it's already kind of sinking back down, but if you do that right before you display her, it'll stay that way. But see, when I do that, it just goes back down. Pops back up. Okay, so I found some very tiny paintbrushes And I'm going to do my best to paint here. I'm going to add a little bit of gloss medium. I'm going to use a bright white with a touch of, what is this called? Antique parchment color. Just acrylic paints. So far, I do not like this. I'll tell you why. It's because it looks almost like when mold forms in a doll's eyes, it looks kind of crusty. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, I could have done it with a steadier hand and done a better job, but even then, I just don't like it. Okay, so I got that paint off. That was a fail, so do not do that. Unless you're just very skilled and you know something that I don't know, but that did not work for me. Okay, she looks so cute like this. So I'm gonna attempt to draw her eyebrow a little bit. So I'm gonna try it at first, see what the pencil does, and if that doesn't work, then I will use the paint. I just wanna go over this one just a little bit and see what happens. It looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but again, for display purposes, I think that looks pretty good. So I added a substantial amount of the gloss medium to this red. Where is it? Naphthol red light. Naphthol red light. So I'm not adding any white or off-white because that's going to make it kind of a creamy color. What I'd rather do is add the gloss medium, which will make it a little bit more transparent and with plenty of water. Right. What do you think? Is that too dark of a red? I'm kind of wondering if I just take a wet wipe and just do one little pat. It'll make it a little bit less bright. I can just do it over again if this ruins it. Just taking up just a tad of color. Could also make it look like a little more authentic. I'm gonna see what she looks like with her blush cheeks and see if it looks good. Okay, I'm super disappointed, unfortunately. So I tried the chalk pastel and I gently rubbed it on her cheeks and it was super, super splotchy. I tried a couple of different colors and then I tried my technique that I use with porcelain dolls, which is lipstick, which has some oils in it that, you know, I know a lot of you are concerned that that could eventually harm the doll. I even tried sort of matting down her face a little bit with some powder, and that didn't make any difference. Okay, her cheeks are a little bit rosier. I worked and worked on it. I basically just crumbled up some pastel and then I would put this little brush in it and then just rotate it around her cheeks. Then I would wipe it off and then I would just keep going and going and going and try for the splotchiness not to emerge. So they're very subtle, but at least it's a little bit of something. I'm still going to touch up her lips a little bit. I don't know if you can tell I fluffed up her hair a little bit. I think her hair is cute or fluffy. I know online usually it's all like patted down, but I just think it's cute fluffy. But she's going to have a bonnet on anyway. So I'm going to do that lip repaint, and I'm going to get her dressed. Let's hide that little bit of scalp. And Maggie is going to get ready for the big reveal. Okay, before I turn her around, let's take a look at her before. And here she is after. Isn't she so cute? I think Tiny Tears is one of the cutest dolls ever. I'm a little bit partial to the ones with the molded hair, but I think she's really, really cute too. And I'll show you her bonnet. And here's a little rattle that I just got at the dollar store. So I don't have a bottle for her, so I've got to be on the lookout for that. So I just made this out of an old dress, and I still have to sew her ribbon down. See the safety pins. You know it was easy if I was able to do it. So Tiny Tears is before my time, but I had an older cousin, and I always loved vintage and antique dolls, and so she passed down all her vintage dolls to me, all her dolls, which were vintage to me, and Tiny Tears was one of them, and I obsessed over Tiny Tears, and then when my oldest niece was born, she also did. So Tiny Tears has become something in the family that's very precious to all of us. And now my oldest niece has a new baby, just a few months old, so I'm going to find a reproduction plastic Ashton Drake Tiny Tears for her to be able to play with. So anyway, if you enjoyed this today, I hope you'll like and subscribe to Maggie to the Rescue and join me for more rescues and show and tells and fashion shows to come. Thanks everybody. Bye.
Like and subscribe. Thank you.